Welcome back to the deep dive. So, for the last few sessions, we've really been immersed, haven't we? Up on that mountain, soaking in Jesus' teaching in the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew chapters 5 through 7. It was just revolutionary.
Absolutely. The constitution of the kingdom, you could say, delivered with this incredible inherent authority. Not like the scribes at all. He was setting the standard.
Right. It was all about his words, his teaching authority. But, words are one thing. True authority, especially for a king, it needs proof, deeds.
Yeah, exactly. And that's precisely where we're headed today. We're coming down the mountain with Jesus right into Matthew chapter 8.
Yeah, this is the transition. Our mission today is to really dig into how Matthew shows Jesus demonstrating that authority, not just talking about it, but showing it. Power over sickness, over the natural world, even the supernatural.
It's about seeing how those mighty words from the sermon are immediately backed up by mighty deeds. The big idea. Jesus is Lord over everything.
And Matthew doesn't just throw random miracles at us, does he? There's a structure here.
Oh, definitely. Chapters 8 and 9, Matthew groups together 10 specific miracles. It's brilliant, really. He's building a case showing Jesus' authority over basically every area you can think of. Sickness, nature, demons, even death itself later on.
So these aren't just feel-good stories, they're signs pointing to who he is.
Precisely. If the sermon was the claim, these miracles are the credentials. They prove he is who he claimed to be.
Okay, let's dive in. Right after the sermon, Matthew 8.1 sets it up. And when he had come down from the mountain, large crowds followed him. Makes sense, right? After hearing teaching like that.
You'd want to stick around, wouldn't you? See what happens next. And what happens first is incredibly significant. Matthew focuses on a leper.
Wow. Okay, so the very first specific healing is for the ultimate outcast.
Exactly. You have to understand what leprosy meant back then. It wasn't just a terrible skin disease. It made you ritually unclean, socially radioactive.
You were basically considered dead while still alive, right? Under God's judgment, some thought. Had to live outside the community, shout, unclean.
Total isolation. So for this man to even approach Jesus, think about the courage that took. The desperation.
And how he approaches tells us a lot. He doesn't just run up demanding help.
No, he comes and kneels.
Yeah.
It's an act of reverence, homage. He recognizes something profound about Jesus. Then he says, and this is Matthew 8.2, and behold, a leper came and knelt before him, saying, Lord, if you wish, you are able to make me clean.
If you wish, you are able. That's fascinating. He has total confidence in Jesus' power.
He absolutely believes Jesus can do it. He addresses him as Lord, acknowledges his ability, likely seeing him as the Messiah.
But he submits to Jesus' will, if you wish. He's not demanding, he's asking. And asking to be made clean, not just healed.
Right. It's key. Clean means full restoration. Back into the community, back into worship. It's holistic.
So how does Jesus respond? Because he could just say the word, right? We see that later.
He could have. But he does something radical, something potentially shocking to everyone watching. He reaches out his hand.
He touches him. But wait, according to the law, Leviticus 5.3, touching a leper made you unclean.
Exactly. That's the power of this moment, Matthew 8.3. And stretching forth his hand, he touched him, saying, I am willing, be cleansed. And immediately his leprosy was cleansed.
Wow. So the touch itself, it's a statement.
It's a profound theological statement. Jesus doesn't become unclean by touching the leper. The leper becomes clean by being touched by Jesus. His purity overcomes the uncleanness.
So the instant he touches him, the man is healed, no longer unclean. The contamination threat is gone before it starts.
Right, and the symbolism is huge. It suggests that no sin, no defilement, no social stigma is so great that Jesus shrinks away from someone who truly wants to be free. The leper is like all of humanity, helpless, cut off until a touch of the one who makes things new.
Okay, so the man's healed, instantly clean. But Jesus doesn't just send him off. He gives him specific instructions.
Yeah, two things. First, silence, Matthew 8.4. And Jesus said to him, see that you do not tell anyone. Why? Probably to manage expectations.
Right, avoid the whole political messiah frenzy that was always simmering. Keep the focus on his true mission.
But the second instruction is about obedience to the law. But go. Show yourself to the priest and offer the gift that Moses commanded as a testimony to them.
So he has to follow the procedures in Leviticus 14 for someone cleansed of leprosy. Go to the priest, get certified clean, offer the sacrifice.
Yes. This is a couple of things. First, it's the official confirmation. The priest's declaration is what lets him fully re-enter society, get his life back.
And second, that phrase as a testimony to them. What's that about?
Well, it could be a testimony to the priests, showing that Jesus respects the law of Moses even while demonstrating messianic power. Or it
Or,
could be a testimony against them, like, look, the signs of the Messiah are happening right under your noses. What are you going to do about it? It forces them to confront the evidence.
okay, so the first miracle, authority over incurable disease, reaching the ultimate outcast and upholding the law even while transcending its limitations through his touch. Powerful start.
Incredibly powerful. And then Matthew immediately shifts focus.
From a Jew to a Gentile, from disease to distance.
Exactly. We move to Capernaum, a Roman garrison town, and the person approaching Jesus is a centurion, a Roman military officer.
An outsider, and he's not coming for himself.
No, he's coming for his servant, his pais in Greek, which could mean son or a servant, but clearly someone he cares deeply about, which, for a Roman officer regarding a servant shows some compassion.
And the servant is in bad shape. The centurion says in Matthew 8:6, Lord, my servant is lying at home paralyzed, suffering great pain.
Terrible suffering. And notice Jesus' immediate response in verse 7. And he said to him, I myself will come and heal him. Jesus is willing to cross that social boundary, enter a Gentile house.
Which was a big deal for Jews at the time, right? Concerns about ritual purity, like we see Peter wrestling with later in Acts.
A very big deal. But the centurion stops him. He shows incredible sensitivity, but even more, incredible insight into Jesus' authority.
This is the core of it, isn't it? Matthew 8:8. But the centurion answered and said, Lord, I am not worthy that you should come under my roof, but only speak the word, and my servant will be healed.
Just speak the word. He gets it. He understands authority.
He doesn't need Jesus physically present. He just needs the command. Why? Because he lives and breathes command structure?
Precisely. He explains it himself in Matthew 8:9. For I myself am also a man under authority, having soldiers under me. And I say to this one, go, and he goes, and to another one, come, and he comes, and to my slave, do this, and he does it.
He's saying, look, I understand how authority works. I give orders, they get obeyed. You have ultimate authority. Your word is enough.
He sees Jesus' authority as absolute sovereign. Just like his military commands have immediate effect, he believes Jesus' command over sickness has immediate effect, regardless of distance.
And this understanding, it just blows Jesus away.
It really does. Matthew 8:10. Now, when Jesus heard this, he marveled and said to the ones following, truly, I say to you, with no one in Israel have I found such faith.
He marveled. Think about that. The only other time the Gospels record Jesus marveling, it's at unbelief. Here, he marvels at the faith of a Gentile soldier.
It's a stunning moment, and it immediately prompts Jesus to look ahead, to connect this Gentile's faith to the future of the kingdom.
He uses this Roman's face to talk about who's really going to be part of God's kingdom. It's not just about heritage.
Not at all. He paints this picture of the great messianic banquet, a core Jewish hope, but he radically expands the guest list, Matthew 8:11. But I say to you that many will come from the east and from the west, and will sit down with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven.
Gentiles from all over the world, joining the patriarchs at the table. That's a huge statement.
Revolutionary. But then comes the flip side. Inclusion for some means exclusion for others who reject the invitation.
The warning, and it's directed at those who should have recognized him, the sons of the kingdom.
Yeah, the very next verse, Matthew 8:12, is chilling. But the sons of the kingdom will be thrown out into the outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth.
Outer darkness. What does that image convey?
It's the stark opposite of the bright, joyful banquet hall. It's separation from God's presence, from light, from fellowship, total spiritual desolation. And the weeping and gnashing of teeth, that's the sound of profound regret, anguish, self-recrimination for having missed it, for having rejected the king.
So being born into the covenant isn't enough. It's about faith, like the centurion showed.
That's exactly the point. Faith transcends ethnicity. And lack of faith, even within the covenant community, leads to judgment.
And then the confirmation. Jesus honors the centurion's understanding.
Right. He doesn't need to go. His word is sufficient, Matthew 8:13.
Yeah.
And Jesus said to the centurion, go, let it be done to you as you have believed. And his servant was healed in that hour.
Instantly healed, miles away, authority over distance confirmed, and a major lesson about faith and who belongs in the kingdom.
Absolutely. 2 miracles down, both demonstrating incredible authority and compassion, expanding the scope from the Jewish outcast to the believing Gentile.
Okay, where does Matthew take us next? Back into a more intimate setting, it seems.
Yeah, we move from the public interaction with the centurion into Peter's home. This is the third specific healing.
And this time it involves Peter's mother-in-law. So Peter was married.
Clearly. Matthew 8:14. And when Jesus came into Peter's house, he saw his mother-in-law lying in bed with a fever. A fever might sound minor to us, but back then a severe fever could be debilitating, even deadly. Maybe malaria, something recurring.
And unlike the leper or the centurion, it doesn't say anyone asked Jesus to heal her. He just sees the need.
Right. He acts out of compassion for someone in his disciples' household.
Hmm.
And again, notice the method.
The touch, Matthew 8:15, and he touched her hand and the fever left her.
Instantly gone. No gradual recovery.
Yeah.
And she rose up and began to minister to him.
She gets up and starts serving them. That's the immediate response.
And that's often highlighted as a picture of true discipleship, isn't it? Right. Healing, whether physical or spiritual, should lead to grateful service. She moves from being incapacitated to actively ministering.
So, leper, centurion servant Peter's mother-in-law, diverse needs, diverse backgrounds, consistent authority, and compassion.
Exactly. But Matthew isn't done showing the scope of this authority. The scene broadens again.
Right. As evening falls, maybe the Sabbath has just ended, so people feel free to travel and bring the sick.
That's the usual understanding.
Yeah.
And the trickle of need becomes a flood. Matthew 8:16. And when it became evening, they brought to him many who were demon-possessed, and he drove out all the spirits with a word and healed all the ones who were sick.
Wow. Many demon-possessed and all the sick. And look how he does it. With a word.
Authority over the supernatural driving out demons, authority over all kinds of physical illness. And his command is sufficient. No rituals, no struggle, just his word.
It's an overwhelming display of power. And Matthew immediately connects it back to prophecy, doesn't he?
He does. This is crucial for Matthew's argument. He wants his readers, especially his Jewish readers, to see Jesus fulfilling the scriptures. Matthew 8:17. So that it might be fulfilled that which was spoken through Isaiah the prophet, saying, He himself took our infirmities and bore our diseases.
Quoting Isaiah 53.4. Now this verse, it raises a big question. One, people still debate intensely today.
Oh, absolutely. Does this mean physical healing is part of the atonement? Should believers expect to be physically healed because Christ bore our diseases?
It's right there in the text, connecting his healing ministry to Isaiah's prophecy about the suffering servant. So what are the main ways people understand this?
Well, one view takes it quite directly. They'd say, yes, just as Jesus bore our sins on the cross, his work also encompasses bearing the physical consequences of the fall, including sickness. Matthew connects the physical healings directly to this verse.
So in this view, physical healing is something provided for in Christ's work, something believers can or even should expect through faith.
That's the argument. They'd emphasize Matthew chose the part of Isaiah 53 dealing specifically with infirmities and diseases right after describing mass physical healings. So the connection seems explicit. Christ's work covers the whole person's spirit and body.
Okay. What's the alternative understanding?
The other main view sees this verse, as Matthew uses it here, primarily demonstrating Jesus' identification with human suffering and his authority over it during his earthly ministry. He took up and carried the burden of sickness as part of his compassionate ministry, proving he was the Messiah who could conquer these things.
So it's more about demonstrating his power and compassion during his life, proving he can heal rather than guaranteeing healing for everyone now.
Right. This view would emphasize that the ultimate fulfillment of bearing our diseases happens in the resurrection, when we receive new, glorified bodies free from all sickness. While God certainly can and does heal today, this verse, in this context, might be more about validating Jesus' messianic credentials by showing his power over the effects of the fall, rather than establishing physical healing as an automatic benefit of the atonement in this present age for every single believer.
So the practical takeaway is complicated, but fundamentally it shows Jesus' work addresses the totality of human brokenness caused by sin, spiritual and physical.
Exactly. Whether the full physical relief comes now or in the resurrection, Matthew uses Isaiah to show that Jesus is the ultimate answer to all human suffering. His authority extends over it all.
Okay, so he's demonstrated authority over sickness, distance, the supernatural. Where does Matthew pivot next? It feels like a shift is coming.
A major shift. Right after this display of immense power, as Jesus is about to cross the Sea of Galilee to get away from the crowds, Matthew 8:18, the focus turns inward, to the cost of following this powerful king.
Ah, the discipleship challenges. Power is attractive, but what does it demand?
Precisely. Two potential followers approaching, and their interactions reveal the radical nature of true discipleship. It's not casual.
The first one is a scribe, a religious scholar, not your average person off the street.
Right, a professional theologian, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And he makes this grand, sweeping statement in Matthew 8:19. Then a scribe came to him and said, "Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go."
Sounds great. All in, ready to go.
You'd think Jesus would be thrilled, but he immediately gives the man a serious reality check. No promises of comfort or security here.
This is the famous verse, isn't it? Matthew 8:20. And Jesus said to him, "The foxes have holes and the birds of air have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head."
Wow. Okay, first notice the title, Son of Man. Jesus uses this title for himself constantly.
And it's not just saying, "I'm human." It connects back to Daniel 7, right?
Right.
The figure who receives dominion and glory.
Exactly. It's a title packed with implications of divine authority and future glory. Yet Jesus connects this glorious title to homelessness, to having less security than wild animals.
So he's saying, you want to follow the glorious Son of Man. Understand this. My mission right now is urgent, itinerant, and without earthly comforts. Are you prepared for that kind of life?
Precisely. Discipleship means potentially sacrificing basic security and comfort. It's about embracing his urgent wandering mission, not settling into a comfortable routine. A stark warning to the perhaps overly enthusiastic scribe.
Okay, that's sobering. What about the second person?
This one is even more challenging, culturally speaking. It's someone already identified as one of his disciples, maybe not one of the 12, but a follower. And he makes what sounds like a very reasonable request.
Matthew 8:21. But another one of his disciples said to him, "Lord, permit me first to go and bury my father."
Now, on the surface, that sounds completely honorable. Honoring parents, especially fulfilling burial duties, was paramount in Jewish culture. Some traditions even said burying your father took precedence over almost any other religious duty.
But there's a nuance here, isn't there? It probably doesn't mean his father just died that day.
Most likely not. If his father had just died, he'd already be involved in the immediate mourning rituals. This request probably means either, let me wait until my father eventually dies, however long that takes, and then I'll follow you fully, or...
Or it refers to the secondary burial.
Exactly. There was often a year-long period after the initial burial, leading up to the collecting of the bones into an ossuary, a bone box. That was considered the final sacred burial act. So he might be asking for a delay of up to a year.
Okay, so whether it's an indefinite delay to provide care or a year-long delay for the final burial custom, he's asking to put family duty before following Jesus now.
Yes, and Jesus' response is radical, absolutely radical. Matthew 8:22. Jesus said to him, "You follow me and allow the dead to bury their own dead."
Whoa. Allow the dead to bury their own dead. What does he mean?
He's drawing a sharp line. There are the physically dead who need burying. And there are the spiritually dead, those who haven't responded to his call, who are caught up in the temporal affairs of this world. Let the spiritually dead handle the affairs of the physically dead.
But your call, the call to follow me and proclaim the kingdom.
That takes absolute, immediate priority over everything, even over the most sacred family and cultural duties. It's an all-or-nothing situation. No delays allowed when the king calls.
So the cost of discipleship, potentially homelessness, and definitely absolute immediate priority over all other loyalties. Heavy stuff.
It shows that following Jesus isn't just adding something to your life. It requires a fundamental reordering of your entire life around him.
Okay, so after laying out these demands, they finally get in the boat to cross the Sea of Galilee, and this journey becomes the setting for the next major demonstration of authority.
Right. Authority over the forces of nature itself. Matthew 8:23. And when he got into the boat, his disciples followed him.
And then, classic Sea of Galilee, a storm hits, and not just a little squall.
No, Matthew 8:24 says, "And behold, a great storm arose in the sea, so that the boat was covered by the waves." Matthew uses the word seismos here, the same word used for earthquakes. This was a violent, terrifying storm. The boat is being swamped.
And where's Jesus? But he himself was sleeping.
The contrast is stunning. Experienced fishermen are panicking, fearing for their lives, and the Son of Man, who has nowhere to lay his head, is sound asleep in the middle of chaos. Complete peace.
Understandably, the disciples freak out, Matthew 8:25. And they came and woke him, saying, "Lord, save us, we are perishing."
Their focus is entirely on the physical danger. They believe they're going down.
And Jesus' first response isn't to the storm, it's to them, Matthew 8:26. And he said to them, "Why are you afraid, ones of little faith?"
He diagnoses their fears stemming from little faith. They had seen him heal, seen his authority, but when the waves got high, they forgot who was in the boat with them. Their faith wasn't non-existent, but it was small, insufficient for the crisis.
Only then does he deal with the weather. Then he got up and rebuked the winds and the sea, and it became completely calm.
He rebuked them, like he rebukes demons or fever. He speaks to the forces of nature with absolute authority, and the result is instantaneous. utter calm. Not a gradual easing, but immediate peace. This is the kind of power attributed to God alone in the Old Testament.
And the disciples' reaction shifts from fear of the storm to awe of Jesus, Matthew 8:27. And the men marveled, saying, "What sort of man is this, that even the winds and the sea obeys him?"
They realize they are in the presence of someone whose authority transcends the known world. It forces the question of his true identity.
And there's a great symbol here for us too, isn't there? The boat as the church, or our lives, facing storms.
Absolutely. Life throws storms at us, so situations that feel overwhelming. The call to follow involves risk. But the message is, the master is in the boat. Even if he seems silent or asleep, his presence means ultimate security. He has the power to calm any storm.
Okay, authority over nature established. They finally reached the other side of the sea, Gentile territory again.
Yes, the country of the Gadarenes, or Gerasenes, depending on the manuscript. Definitely Gentile land, as we'll see from the pigs.
And immediately they're confronted by something terrifying.
Matthew 8:28. And when he came to the other side, into the country of the Gadarenes, 2 demon-possessed men met him as they were coming out of the tombs. They were exceedingly violent, so that no one was able to pass that way.
2 men, Mark and Luke mention 1, but Matthew specifies 2, living among tombs, places of uncleanness and death, utterly controlled by demonic forces and dangerously violent. A picture of extreme spiritual bondage.
They represent the height of Satan's destructive power in a human life. Complete alienation, uncontrollable rage.
But these demons, they instantly know who Jesus is. There's no confusion on their part.
None at all. They cry out in fear and recognition. Matthew 8:29. And behold, they shouted out, saying, "What have we to do with you, Son of God? Are you come here to torment us before the time?"
Look at that. They call him Son of God. They recognize his divine identity, and they understand eschatology. They know a final judgment, a time of torment is coming.
Right. They seem to fear. He's arrived to execute that final judgment prematurely, before the time. Their terror confirms his ultimate authority over them and their destiny.
And nearby, there's a large herd of pigs, unclean animals, confirming this is Gentile territory. The demons make a request.
Knowing they're being evicted, they bargain. Matthew 8:31. The demons were begging him, saying, "If you drive us out, send us into the herd of pigs."
And Jesus allows it.
He gives a single command, Matthew 8:32. And he said to them, "Go." Just one word.
And the result is dramatic and destructive.
And after they came out, they went into the pigs, and behold, all the herd rushed down the cliff into the sea and died in the water. Maybe 2,000 pigs, according to Mark's account. A massive financial loss for the owners.
Why let them go into the pigs? Why the destruction?
Several thoughts on that. It graphically demonstrates the reality and destructive nature of the demons. It shows their ultimate destination is destruction. Perhaps it also visually proved to the terrified local people that the demons were truly gone from the men, and maybe it served the demons' own destructive urges. They couldn't destroy the men, so they destroyed the animals. But ultimately, Jesus' authority is paramount. He commands, they obey, even if it leads to chaos.
So the herdsmen run off, tell everyone in the town what happened, both the healing of the men and the loss of the pigs.
Right. And the townspeople's reaction is, well, it's not what you might expect.
They should be celebrating, right? These violent men who terrorized the region are healed, restored.
You'd think so, but look at Matthew 8:34. And behold, the whole city came out to meet Jesus, and when they saw him, they begged him to depart from their region.
They asked him to leave. After seeing this incredible display of power and liberation,
They were more concerned about the economic loss to the pigs than the human restoration. They saw Jesus' power as dangerous, disruptive, costly. They valued their livestock more than their formerly tormented neighbors.
wow. That's a chilling end to the chapter's miracles.
It really is. A stark reminder that encountering Jesus' power forces a choice. And sometimes people choose their comfort, their economy, over the presence of the king.
Okay, so let's wrap up Matthew 8. It's been quite a journey down the mountain.
It really has. This chapter is such a crucial bridge. It takes the authoritative teaching of the Sermon on the Mount and immediately provides the authoritative deeds to back it up. Jesus isn't just a wise teacher. He's the sovereign Lord.
We've seen his power is absolute, hasn't it? Over the most feared diseases like leprosy, over paralysis and fever, over geographical distance, over the chaotic forces of nature like the wind and waves, and finally over the terrifying power of the demonic realm.
He demonstrates comprehensive authority. Nothing is outside his control. Matthew has systematically shown us this Jesus is Lord of all.
And woven through these miracle accounts are these crucial lessons about response. We see the spectrum of faith.
hmm You have the incredible insight and great faith of the Roman centurion, an outsider who just got it.
Contrasted with the little faith of the disciples in the storm, who panic despite having Jesus right there with them, it shows faith can waver even for those closest to him.
And then there are the demands of discipleship. It's not easy. It requires readiness to abandon comfort, like the scribe learned.
And it demands absolute, immediate priority over everything else, even sacred family duties, as the disciple wanting to bury his father discovered. Following Jesus is urgent and total.
It redefines all other loyalties.
Which brings us back to that unsettling reaction of the Gadarenes. They witnessed arguably the most spectacular miracle, the liberation of two demon-possessed men, but their response was fear and rejection because it cost them something tangible.
Their pigs mattered more.
So that leads to our final thought for you, our listeners, to consider. The Gadarenes saw undeniable power, but they begged Jesus to leave because of the implications, the cost. Think about your own life. What does encountering the evidence of God's sovereign power cost you? Is there a sense in which we perhaps subtly prefer our problems or our status quo if embracing God's power fully might disrupt our comfort, our plans, our pigs?
Are we sometimes more afraid of the implications of his authority in our lives than we are the problems he has the power to solve? Something to reflect on.